All right, welcome back, everyone, to Three Guys, One Music. How is it going, guys?
Hello,
What's
Jamie.
up?
Going well.
All right.
Better than the last few days for me. Today's a good day.
Oh my!
Did you listen to Ice Cube?
Today is a good day. That's a great song.
That is a good
But
song.
I did not listen to that today. I enjoyed the good day.
Would have been perfect to listen to that.
That's true.
How's your weekend going? It's almost over, but I just want to ask, how has it been?
Today's been the best day.
All right.
And
Well,
I'm not kidding.
The best of the two.
Best
Yeah,
of-
today's been
yeah.
a pretty good day. I got to spend some extra time hanging out with the spouse, and we had a good time.
And an old friend of ours.
and an old friend over the weekend. So
Yeah.
that
Hi,
was pretty
Brent.
cool.
Brent.
Yo.
Yes. Mike
So-
and I did a project for Brent many, many years ago. That was,
B-dubs.
that was a lot of fun.
Yes,
It was good.
a lot of work, a lot of fun.
And Brent is a very talented artist. Thank you for all the work you've done for me on the side, Brent. Appreciate it. We're going to talk about the Police of Synchronicity today. This is our second album focus episode, and this is
The
one of
final.
those records that really affected us, and we really think a lot of this record. So I'm going to hand this off to Mike, and we're going to go ahead and get into it.
It's a big record. It was a huge record at the time. It's still it's a classic album.
I'll hand it off to you.
All right, we're going to start off 1983. The Police came out with Synchronicity, their fifth album, their final album together, their biggest selling,
Yes.
10 million plus copies. I believe that's right.
8 million in the U.S.
yeah.
Yeah.
And this is my copy.
There are many like it, but this is mine.
But this one is mine. We went to see that tour. I'd missed the Police earlier, like
January of 82.
Zenyatta Mandata. I missed that tour. I wanted to go see it, and I didn't get to go see it. So it was cool to see them for the Synchronicity tour. We had really good seats, but we couldn't hear a thing from all the screaming girls in the audience. It was, yeah, it was a sight to see, but it was a really good show. It was an amazing show. Those three are and were so talented. But yeah, Synchronicity, the pinnacle of their writing together as a group. Synchronicity is, if you don't know, in fact, I really don't like it when people misuse the word. And during the last album discussion, when we were talking about Rush, I used the word wrong because I couldn't think fast enough of another word. Synchronicity is basically putting meaning to coincidence. Something inconsequential happens, and you feel like it means something.
You find out later. Oh, this is why this
Yes.
happened. Okay.
Carl Jung's theory of synchronicity. I think he came out. He was working on it in the 40s. Actually, published a book in the 50s on synchronicity, trying to connect causal happening.
Yeah.
Causal events with some kind of meaning. Hoping to explain some paranormal events. Pseudoscience, if you don't believe that kind of thing, but it's an interesting thought.
Right.
And the Police took it to heart, and it's not a concept album, but that theme runs through some of the songs, not all the songs, but some of the songs on the album. The album artwork was actually suggested by record exec at the time, suggested they all three go and have their photos taken separately and see if they connect in some way. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But it is an iconic cover.
Yes.
All the Police's covers are standout.
Yeah.
All very different, but they're certainly unique. So Synchronicity, produced by Hugh Padgham. He's worked. He's worked with everyone in the 80s: Phil Collins, Genesis, Peter Gabriel, Elton John, Paul McCartney,
Literally everyone in the
XTC, and Killing Joke, two of my favorite bands.
some of the
Um,
best recorded records, produced
mm,
records.
yeah, this really is an amazing production.
And I have something to say about that for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even before remastering digitally,
Yes.
it had a great sound. It was a full
Right.
sound.
Yeah. And it didn't, I think it stands the test of time. It doesn't sound necessarily like an 80s album.
Not
There's
at all.
some 80s elements in there that you might nitpick about, but it still stands out. All the songs on there. One of the things that stands out to me, the entire album, is the more complex production, the deeper production. There's a lot more instrumentally going on, but the Police stick to their roots in that all the songs are minimalistic pop songs. You can break them down to the bare bones, and
Yeah,
they're
they could
still
just be played on
solid
the three
songs. Yeah,
instruments and it would work.
yeah, but there's a lot of percussion. There's a lot
yeah.
of little events going on, strings and
Piano,
horns, even
yeah.
piano that comes up. And Andy Summers, is there a guitarist besides maybe Robert Fripp who's mastered the guitar synthesizer better than Andy Summers? You know, he's in and out of all the music, creating moods, creating textures. It's just, you know, all their contributions are impressive. Okay. So well, let's start breaking it down.
I have a general thought about the record in itself before we start getting in track to track, and Grant, you can do the same if you care to.
Yeah.
Okay.
I listened to the record yesterday, and there are a handful of tracks on there that are, subpar. Notably, we'll go over one of those tracks. But
my big gripe with all Police albums.
Generally, this record, not generally, it is the best collection of songs from top to bottom, with the exception of just a couple. And those were to placate, publishing, I'm guessing, for that member of the band. So he could have a song on the record, because he knew they knew it was going to be huge. So that's
I'm going to defend it when we come to it, but
well, yeah, I do want to get into it. But I would say that, like you said, Hugh Padgham, this is, to me, I would personally say this is my favorite production he ever did. And I love his many records that he did. This record is, I would say, the Rolls Royce of 80s production. It does have 80s elements in it, but they have aged so well.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that reverb that is jarring, and sound effects that just don't belong there.
Yeah.
Like, you could say that as much as I love Heartbeat City by the Cars, even though Mutt Lange produced that, who's one of the greatest producers of the last 40, 50 years, that production doesn't hold up nearly as well.
Yeah.
And it's essentially the same age. This record is beautifully done. The compression and the EQ that they did, even on Stewart's drums. This is my favorite drum sound, even though I am curious of what you two think, being drummers. I think Ghost in the Machine has a more natural drum sound with less compression, but the way he compressed the drums for these songs, I think, was really wise.
Yeah.
That sound on Ghost in the Machine would not have worked.
Yeah, it wouldn't have. Yeah,
he did. It would have
too open.
stood out.
Yeah.
It was too open. They needed to be deadened.
Yeah. I was going to say that the snare drum, maybe the drums as a whole, but at least the snare drum on this album doesn't have the body that you associate with Stuart Copeland's song. But you're right. It worked very well with all the songs on this album.
Well, it was a little drier because everything else was so saturated,
And I think maybe he didn't get to play as much. He didn't do as much drumming on this album as the previous albums, but the songs didn't call for that.
Yeah.
So the restraint in his playing and the like you say, the compression and EQ of the drums fit the album. It's not necessarily what I want to hear, but for the songs on this album, they're really perfect.
It's just the way they did it was so smart, and
Yeah.
a lot of tension during the recording of this record, a lot of tension.
Yeah.
And they literally almost didn't complete the record, I think.
I
But
think Hugh Padgham almost quit over them
yeah,
fighting all the time.
yeah, I think I have read that Stewart and Sting actually came to blows during some recordings. So it was difficult, and but it was the final outcome is fantastic. And the star of this record is not one of the members, but it's truly the songs.
Mhm.
These
Mhm.
songs
Yeah.
are so good. And I love the Police records, but these songs have aged so beautifully. And I just really think this is a super strong record.
Yeah. Or haven't aged.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's true. You know, I
One
mean,
thing, talking about the production and the sound, Sting was a big proponent of the synclavier. Stewart was an early adopter of the Fairlight. Both of those top of the line, cutting edge, very, very expensive
Mhm.
samplers and synthesizers. And that's the 80s sound, those two monsters, and you hear that sound on all kinds of records in all kinds of genres, but it's not on this album. And if it's on this album, whether it's the horns or strings or even the percussion, it doesn't stand out
Yeah.
as
right.
There's
some
that typical
manufacturer.
Fairlight sound
Yeah.
that are on a million 80s recordings. And like you
Yeah.
said, if they used it here, you can't tell because they used it in a different way.
Yeah.
The one
Uh,
thing that they did on this record that I think is a tip of the hat to the 80s is sequencer, which used Oberheim.
Yeah.
Especially you can hear it on the opening track.
Mhm.
But it works. I don't think
Yeah.
it's dated. I don't think
Oh, it doesn't sound dated. No.
it's really sounds great still, and it worked. It was written great for that part, and I think the sound is I just can't imagine it without it.
Yeah.
So to me, it's not one of those sounds that I'm like, "Ugh, it would have been better without that."
I've heard the
You'll
demos without it,
realize
and it
Oh,
is
really?
totally a different feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I got the whatever anniversary, and it's got like buku demo tracks, and it's so interesting to listen to, especially as a writer and a musician, to listen to what it started out and then what it became. But yeah, without that, it's a total different.
Would you
feel.
guys say that this is the closest to a punk rock song, even though nobody ever thinks it that way? But if you listen to the approach, it's the closest they had to a punk rock song since early on.
Yeah,
Is that sound? Does that make sense? I mean,
I
just the
see it.
way
I
that
can see
you
it.
don't not on the guitars, but
Yeah,
just
the feel. Yeah,
the way
the attack.
Stewart is
Yeah,
playing and the way
Mhm.
Sting is delivering the vocals. It's fast paced. It's
Mhm.
really moving quickly.
Are we talking about the first song now?
Synchronicity. Yeah.
Synchronicity One.
Synchronicity one.
It's kind of an overture for the album,
Yeah.
expressing this is what synchronicity is about, and this is where we're going.
Mhm.
And Stewart said they opened the concerts at that time with that song, and think about jumping in
Oh yeah,
at 100 miles an hour right off the bat.
yeah.
You better warm up backstage, man, because that'll take a toll
You'll
on
be
you.
out by the time the song's over if you're not
Yeah.
warmed up.
Synchronicity, driving head, that rock and that punk rock beat. It is fast.
Yeah, it's
And,
fast.
good.
Yeah,
The I like the modulation the guitar plays, back and forth over that. Sting's vocals right out front, a declaration.
and all the layered vocals. I mean, they
Yeah.
went back there, like you saying before. Immediately the first track with Oberheim and there's the layered vocals. There's already so much more than just three instruments.
Yeah. Excuse me. But jumping right in, it's just an onslaught by all the instruments, including Sting's voice. It's pretty powerful. I love that song. That's I love the energy of it. That'll get you pumped up. That's going on my list.
Yeah.
Emotional songs. So Synchronicity One. Yeah, I kind of think of it, even though, like I said, it's not a concept album. I think of it as an overture.
Yeah,
because it
just letting you know what
you're in for.
what
you're in for
Yep.
through the whole album. There's all kinds of concepts, and each of those are kind of hinted at in the lyrics of that song. So
Right.
that's a great opener for
Yes.
that album.
Very high energy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then
All right.
after that, right into Walking in Your Footsteps, which is that Oberheim pulse going on, that slow tribal thing. Very little percussion in the back, but you can hear it. Those little, high pitched inflections. I'm trying to think of the guitar part in that. That's one of those where it's very atmospheric, very ethereal, where he's kind of swelling in and out.
It does have very little guitar. Yeah, it's swelling.
Yeah.
He's coming in with probably
The
either a volume pedal or
Let's
manually
just keep saying
doing
swelling tonight.
swelling.
The swells of guitar.
Password
in
is
the
swelling.
But yeah, it's again, we've talked about the restraint already, but that's a great example. The Oberheim's banging along. There's very little percussion. Andy
loves that dissonance, because I was
just
just playing that song in my head, and when that guitar comes in, not quite in the middle, I guess it does have a dissonant tone to it, or diminished tone, which comes across as it's in key, but it's a little bit puts you off a little bit, like, oh, what's happening here?
Yeah.
Just kind of echoing the I guess the uncertainty of the past, maybe something like that. You know?
And the lyrics too. The lyrics are kind of silly and simple, but they work great. Sting is so good at writing pop songs and making a statement, making a clear thought. Talking about the dinosaurs, no way of knowing or preparing for their imminent demise. And here we are, modern man, with all the technology, running fast forward headlong into our possible demise.
Exactly. It's not
so
double entendre there.
It's an interesting comparison.
Very witty.
He's a very well-read man, and that echoes in all of his lyrics, just about.
Yeah.
Smart, well, just a side note, it's interesting that he'd obviously read, I wrote it down so I don't get it wrong. He'd obviously read Arthur Koestler's books before for the Ghost of the Machine, but Andy Summers said that he brought the book, The Roots of Coincidence, to Sting, and that's where he learned about synchronicity. So, and Andy Summers had before said, I think he brought him The Sheltering Sky.
Yeah, well, that's
by
touching on that at the end of the
Paul
album.
Bowles.
Yeah,
so is Andy Summers the source of all the brilliant lyrics?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Andy, get back to us.
Talk amongst yourselves. Leave us a comment. What's your thought?
There'll be some controversy about one of the tracks coming up.
Yeah.
Oh
My God is the next one on the album. And what is that song about? Thoughts?
Man's inhumanity to man. An echo of the previous track on Zenyatta Mandata, Driven to Tears. I believe Sting still, as any intelligent human should do, they should struggle with the reconciliation of the have and the have-nots, and the state of the world, and so on and so forth, and to be a brilliant enough writer as he was to put it into a pop song where people might not even know what he's talking about,
always calling out those in power from when the police started. But yeah, Oh My God is a great it's obviously a police song. Some of these songs are kind of removed from what they've done in the past, but Oh My God is a throwback to their earlier stuff. Started with Regatta de Blanc, and it's that beat by Stuart Copeland and the kind of reggae feel.
Yes,
bouncy,
more swingy
line.
Than rocky.
Yeah.
And it does make you wonder whether they intentionally largely removed the reggae influence on this record. It's done, like I said, here, but really
probably the least record with that influence missing, or the most record with that influence.
It's the most successful record, and that's not a judgment from me whether that's a reason why, but
well, after 4 previous albums and countless tours, and they really wanted to do something different.
It's beautiful. They did a great job. Yeah.
Oh, what's the next track, Jamie? Is it your favorite on the album?
It's Jamie's favorite track on the album.
Mother, written by Andy Summers,
Oh,
gets a
yeah.
lot of flack from everybody.
It's a
And
great one.
I think it's a great song.
It's a great song
I get the
to
humor.
get flack. I get the humor, but Andy, stop being abstract and impotent on purpose and write us a song.
That was after his album with his first album with Robert Fripp. Is that right?
Yeah.
Was it? I thought
think it
that
was.
I thought that 86 was the first record, but that
Oh, I
wasn't the
thought that was
first
the
record.
second one.
Well, I'm not gonna. I don't know for sure.
I'm not quite
I
sure. I
didn't.
think it is.
I didn't follow it. It's just not my thing.
Yeah. But I think really, I think by that time, Andy Summers was ready to throw a wrench into the works.
Oh yeah,
Just to poke Sting a little bit, and that song was his attempt at that. And I think the music is, I love the swirling.
Oh, the music. If the lyrics had just been something else and that melody had been something else.
His screaming torment about an overbearing mother. And I think he said, everybody's like, what's your mom think about this? And his mom loved it. She thought it was great. She laughed when she first heard it. But yeah, I get the joke. I appreciate it. I appreciate the effort to ruin the momentum of some of these songs, because all these songs on the album, just about, I won't say all of them, all right, but 90% of the songs on the album are classic songs, and Mother is not one of them.
Yeah, well, and looking at both of their tracks, I mean, we can kind of segue because it's next.
Yeah.
Even Stewart's contributions are very quirky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But this one it's got its quirkiness, but it's still it's a more structured song. It's it's trying to have a melody, and sometimes in the past, Stewart has been the one to be so quirky. It's like, okay, this is weird.
He makes the fun stuff.
Yeah.
But, Mother, you've got to appreciate it for the tongue in cheek.
I appreciated when this came out on CD. Skip.
So I can't find anybody else who will defend that song. So I'm going to stand up tonight and say I like that song.
Yeah, I every time I listen to it, obviously in the past, I listen with open mind and ears, and I love the music. It could have been. It has that driving, swirling. It's got a Middle Eastern feel.
Yeah.
It could have been something really cool if you'd have said, "Okay, Sting, do something with this."
Yeah, put some words.
Be my co-writer on this one instead of just having a publishing credit on the album.
Jamie, what's your final word on that song?
Not good.
Okay, I'm in the minority. I think
it's unnecessary.
Yeah, see, that's where I would have, if I'd have been in the band, I would have come to blows over it. Like, you're messing up the whole feel of the album, dude. I get your quirkiness, and we can use it as a B-side. We can use it as a bonus track later. We can do whatever, but it's not working with the flow of the album, it's not good. That would have been my contention. Sting and Stewart, and they're fighting over this chord, and Sting always yelling at Stewart not to play a flam here, or he's going to kill him or whatever. And that's minor compared to putting a song like this in the middle of not quite the middle, but just breaking up the flow. I'm like,
even Miss Grodenko is kind of a serious tone. So I really appreciate the levity thrown right in the middle of the album by this song, because it is so different, and it kind of knocks you back from the album being so serious. It takes you away from that for a moment, lets you maybe catch your breath and get back into it. But like I said, I'm in the minority. Having mentioned it, the next song by Stuart Copeland, Miss Grodenko, is actually a song about the Cold War. At the time, it was such a big deal. Nuclear war was inevitable, it felt. But
sort of still feels that way.
Yeah. But Miss Grodenko, what was the Sting song Russians? How could I forget that with such a simple name?
Right.
He said that Sting did it so much more eloquently with Russians, but we
Yeah.
can't all be Sting. So Stewart wrote Miss Gradenko, which is a fun tune. It's a lively tune. It's obviously Stuart Copeland. You just feel that push and pull of the music, and there's not a lot of percussion in there to start until it gets to the chorus. So yeah, I really like that tune. It's a fun tune. And the guitar part, I like the, the
It's almost
16
like a
notes that go all the way through it.
flamenco kind of thing.
Yeah. That's what the word I was thinking of. But yeah, I really like the way the guitar winds through it, sets the pace, and the drums come in later to reinforce that rhythm.
It's a good track. It's like you said, it's not one that I listen to often. You have 2 or 3 tracks in here, a couple of tracks that don't work as well, but
Mm,
the rest of these songs are so strong that they can take it, So this
mm.
record still is incredible, but now that we're past those, back into the good stuff.
Well, let me just say,
Yeah,
Miss
yeah.
Gradenko is probably the best. One of 2 songs I'll say has the best drummings on this album.
Yeah, I would agree with that,
He
actually.
really gets to stretch out. And
Yeah.
there's another song later
Yeah.
on that you really have to think about. Well, yeah, there is a lot of drumming, and there are a lot of creative drumming, creative choices in what he plays, even though the drumming in the song is minimalistic.
Yeah,
But Synchronicity II, big radio hit.
really well written.
Yeah, the lyrics in there are just fun to sing along to because there's so many words. Words make a difference in their percussiveness, how the vowels and the crunchy consonants that you get to say. So there's a lot of
Crunchy consonants.
crunchy consonants packed like lemmings into shining metal boxes. Fun to say.
At the
Sing along to.
time, sidebar. At the time, I was really into martial arts, and when the first time I heard it, I thought he said Chinese metal boxing, and I was like, "Oh, cool! He's talking about martial arts." And I
Metal
looked at the
boxing.
lyrics, I was like, "What? It's not about martial arts."
Yeah, but Synchronicity, I don't know. He sings about this horrible home life, everything that you could suffer from in a dysfunctional family situation that follows you to the office and even stuck in traffic all day, and comparing it to singing about the Loch Ness monster visiting someone's house. I don't know where the connection is unless it's a metaphor for his rising anger and frustration.
Yet the music is so melodic and
Yes.
so palatable. It's
Yes.
almost like you have this interesting lyric, like you said, that it's so different, but the music is so accessible that it's just so catchy.
Yeah.
It's one of the best melodies that they ever had on a song. It's so uplifting. And me, not being a lyric guy, I was able to not even worry about that stuff. And I was just I was able to attach myself to the phonetics of it without
Yeah.
interpreting it. And I just thought, God, this is so good. That was one of the tracks that really got me hooked onto this record back in
Yeah.
the day. It's just so good.
That meter is so perfect, and it's such a kinetic song
Yeah.
leading up to not really the chorus, but leading up to that transition into the next verse, because it doesn't really resolve itself. It kind of leaves you hanging on that when he's talking about the Loch Ness monster. So what a well-written pop song without being the standard pop song. There's no bridge and chorus that works its way into that. So a lot of fun. And Andy Summers,
it's almost a surf guitar.
Yeah, you could say that. And he actually plays more guitar in that song than the others. Everything else is that moody guitar synth kind of thing. And
the big Andy Summers chords.
Yeah, that's as straight ahead as Andy Summers gets. So it's great musically. It's great lyrically. It's a lot of fun to watch Grant dance to. He's an amazing dancer.
I'm your private dancer.
Did I sound like I was sincere?
Amazing
I don't
dance.
I'm a good dancer, though.
He's a good dancer.
My mom
What
says
are you
I'm a
going
good
to do?
dancer.
My mom says I'm smart.
All right, so down to side 2. I would say this is
And
there's no failing in any of these.
Yeah.
It's all great. So carry on.
And is this their biggest hit from the album? It has to be. Every
yeah, it's
breath
gotta
you
be,
take.
yes.
Every breath you take, a
Possibly
fantastic
biggest
song.
hit they ever had as a band, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it the largest selling?
And is there a simpler song out there? Because it's just straight ahead. There's not a lot that beside. If you want to break down Andy Summers' chord play in that
Yeah.
song, but the song itself is pretty simple. But it works so
I may be
well.
misinterpreting this or misquoting, but I think, did Sting somewhere say he makes $1 million a year off this one song, and the sample that another certain artist we won't mention did combined between his original and the sample? I think he said he makes $1 million a year off this song. Just in
sounds about
royalties,
right.
yeah, publishing.
Let's talk about this song a little bit. This song has some interesting history. I think this song in particular was one that almost derailed the sessions. From what I understand, this song is cobbled together from a bunch of takes from all the instruments. They could not agree on how to make this work, and it almost did not make the record.
And there's a lot of demos of it too on the thing.
Yeah. The thing that I can recall before I expound on Andy Summers' contribution, which is extremely important. At the time, I listened to that and thought, well, this is his thing. He kind of has this arpeggiated, extended chord thing. That's what he does, being a young guy.
Yeah.
It's very, kind of, message in a bottle. It's sort of the same idea.
Yeah.
But when you try to play this song in those stretches and do it cleanly,
that's what I was doing.
it is extremely difficult to do in one take. And maybe he never did it in one take. Maybe that's why they called it together. I don't know. But I don't think any of the 3 ever did a complete take. They just couldn't agree on how to make it work. And Andy Summers finally came up with this iconic guitar part that made everything cohesive and really made it work. The thing that I remember about this when I first saw it, at first it was so sparse. I remember maybe one of the first times I heard it, I was like, there's not much here. I don't think not being a huge fan of any of the 3 at the time, I was just not hip enough. But then between a very short time during the chorus, or that, well, not the chorus, but that, I guess, the bridge, whenever you have that chord that he hits, and then he goes down, a whole step.
The descending piano.
You have that descending piano, and it's so simple, but I thought that is awesome.
Yeah.
It just is really smart the way they decided to do that. And it's not obvious. I mean, anybody could do that technically, but
but they're the ones who actually did it.
I know. Yeah. It's just like, when you're a young player and you're totally into guys that are playing at this unbelievable level, that's where I was at that point in my life. And I was attracted to guys that were pushing the envelope and challenging themselves. And I heard this and it was so simple. I thought, I don't understand why this is so popular. It didn't compute at the time, but then it didn't take very long. By the end of the summer, I was singing along to it and totally into this great melody. And I understood the appeal of great songwriting and restraint. You have to write a part for a song and to have restraint. That is challenging.
Well, that's basically the whole second side is filled with space, whereas the other side was loaded in with everything.
That's true, isn't it? That is true. That's a very good point.
But no, am I correct that Andy Summers' guitar part was actually derived from a series of classical exercises for violin or viola?
I don't know the answer to that. I can't say one way or the other. But
I
it wouldn't surprise me, but I have
Yeah.
not heard that.
I
That
think
part
it
is
is, but
so important to the song. It saddens me that he wasn't given a co-writing credit for the
Well,
music.
I think he is in the midst of campaigning for that.
Yeah.
I think his argument is like this song would not have been
Yeah, it
wouldn't
wouldn't.
even have, we wouldn't
Yeah.
have put it on the record had
Yeah,
I not come up with this guitar part
yeah,
because it wasn't working.
yeah.
And he really made everything come together.
Mhm.
So he totally deserves credit for that. I don't know where that stands right now, but it is
Yeah.
incredibly
Yeah.
important.
A
You
lot.
can't imagine that song
Oh,
without
no.
it. And he
Yeah.
wrote that part.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'll have to look into that. I believe it was a series of exercises he pulled from someone else's writing and used that type of
yeah.
progression.
You
for
can
that
hear it
song.
on violin in your head if
Yeah.
his part,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I mean, it works on violin, obviously.
But even Stuart Copeland said that this was the hardest song for him to do because he did each part separately.
Mhm.
Am I right?
Yeah.
He like played the bass drum with one hand and then went back and recorded the snare drum
Yeah.
with the other, and then
And
recorded the
that's
cymbal.
another
So-
one of the arguments that he and Sting, because Stewart, you know, puts his flams in, and Stewart was adamant this has to be when the song, you know, breaks open, it has to be a flam. It can't just be a single snare crack, you know. And his thing was like, you play flams all the time, blah blah blah. He's like, yeah, but I know, but it's perfect here. So I know that was one of their major arguments in this song.
I just want to say one thing that we talked a lot about this over the last, several episodes about feel.
Mhm.
And when you're younger, you don't analyze those things. You just literally
Feel it.
it just is how it affects you.
Yeah.
And the way all three of these guys play on this song is just masterfully. It's just so beautiful the way they did it. It 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 is such an odd thing that it's hard to describe to somebody who's not a musician how the push and pull of things and how it makes the song uh, go forward, but it's just such an important factor that it just can't be um it's just a huge part of these records and
Mhm.
what they did and why they are considered so great.
Mhm.
um when you have a musician that can really play for the song and it doesn't sound like it's just a part. Now there are some songs that we grew up with that I love and I listen to those parts and they're fine. Then you have like these guys that are on a different level. And even Sting, who people could argue he's not a great bass player, he's a wonderful musician
Mm-hmm.
and he's a fine
Yeah,
bass player.
but try
his
singing and
feel
playing the.
on
Yeah.
well, not only the technical part of it, but his feel is so
Yeah.
good. It is so good. And you don't think about those things when you're learning. You just accept it that that's the way all guys are. And
Mhm.
that's not the way
It's
it
not
is.
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a reason we're talking about it decades later, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we haven't talked about the obvious is the words to the song. Every
yeah.
breath you take.
We discussed it previously. It
I
was
think-
on one of my lists for scary songs.
I think
that was
everyone's
it.
everyone's discussed the stalking nature of this song, but Sting wrote it. I think he wrote it about his. If I'm wrong, kids, tell me in the comments. But I think he wrote this about his breakup with his wife, his first wife, and to say these things in private to someone in an intimate situation, maybe it feels more emotional from the heart. But when you say it out loud, where everybody can hear
Yeah,
it,
it's like what you
it's
talking about?
like I'm going to call the police on you right now. So maybe not intended as a stalker singing about stalking his prey.
What's possessive song? It's very possessive,
yeah, it's a very possessive song. But
Right.
if when you're brokenhearted or in love or having issues even in your relationship, you may think some of these things. This is what you want, even though literally it's a little too much
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
being so possessive. But doesn't take away from the beauty of the song. Great chorus,
What's the
great
dichotomy?
lyrics.
The lyrics say the music is so beautiful and so
Yeah,
uplifting and so whatever, and then these lyrics come along and okay, what's he saying? All right.
well, there's the redemption of the break where
Yeah.
since you're gone, I'm haunted by you every
Yeah,
night.
yeah. He
I see
kind of
your
ties in a
face.
little bow on it, so
So
that's not
yeah,
quite as bad as it sounds at the beginning.
not quite as bad, but let me repeat that. I'm watching.
Yeah.
That is such a well written part,
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's so simple, but it is so brilliant. How that almost makes the song.
Yeah.
yeah,
If it was just the main part, without that
Yeah, it would be
section,
different. Yeah, it
it
would be
would
different.
not. It would be.
It might not work.
yeah. It really elevates the whole song.
Oh, it does elevate it. It's so good. Yeah, it just really elevates it, and yeah, I think that's the part that really made me love the song finally. When I
Mhm.
finally started listening to that and understanding how just well it's composed, as simple as it is, you
Yeah,
don't need to have something fancy. You just need to have something that works.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, you can mess it up by putting just like a beautiful whatever you want to cook, a hamburger steak or a vegetable lasagna. If you add too much to it, you're ruining it.
mhm.
It's music's funny like that. Like with dishes, they kind of sometimes you can ruin it by putting too many instrumentations on it, too much this, by adding too many spices.
Yeah.
It's
Don't
complicated.
add too much, boys and
That's
girls.
right.
Well,
Nope.
intelligent enough to know when to hold back. The police, all three of them, have proved their musical ability, their musicianship throughout their
Right.
career. I think of Bring On the Night. What
Ah,
an amazing song, complex song. And then Every Breath You Take is so simple and to
Yeah.
the point, and it's just perfect. It's such a great song.
Yep.
So kudos. Good job, Sting.
good job, guys. Andy
Great
and
for a reason.
Flammy Copeland.
Flammy Copeland. Flemmy?
Flammy.
Flammy. Well, it is allergy season. Maybe it is Flemmy. The other song that I mentioned earlier that has such an amazing drum part, Wrapped Around Your Finger. Beautiful song.
Well, we're
King
skipping
of
King of
Pain.
Pain.
Are we skipping one? What
Yeah,
are we
King of
skipping?
Pain. King of Pain's next.
Oh, see there? That's
Yeah.
why I have you guys along. If
Yeah.
this were my show, it'd be over by now because I'd forget all this stuff. King of Pain. What a great song.
Yes.
Grant?
The song that really
Yeah,
made me a fan of this record.
and
This
it
was a
got
radio track. It
yeah, it
was
got
played a lot on the
tremendous
radio.
airplay. It was, but it's such a it's such a sing-songy, childlike
Mhm.
uh
Yeah.
melody, and the things it's almost like a nursery rhyme,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
a very dark nursery rhyme.
That's a good comparison. It's just so easy to sing along to. And if you're doing something and that's in the background and that comes on, you'll find yourself
Yeah, oh
humming
yeah, yeah,
along
humming along or singing along,
involuntarily.
and
You just have to.
yeah,
And that happened. Like I said, this song was I don't know if it was that officially released as a single?
yes,
Yeah,
Yes.
it was. Okay. So, but it was played a lot on the radio as much
Mhm.
as any other track,
yeah,
maybe more than any other track that I can recall. But it was played all the time, and it is a beautifully beautiful song.
Mhm.
It's really well written, and like you said, the lyric, "That's my soul up there."
yeah,
It
Yeah.
just it just is so easy to sing along to, and it's vulnerable.
and
That's the thing
it's
Yeah.
such
about it.
simple words, but such massive imagery in your head or
Yeah.
such in your soul or whatever. You it gets you
Yeah.
thinking. But
Yeah.
I would
still, it's like
argue
a
this
kid's rhyme.
I think this is the best arrangement on the record. I think this is
Yeah.
just really well done. As much as I think that Every Breath You Take is just really a
Yeah,
beautiful composition and the way they arranged it. I think King of Pain is more successful as an arrangement, and it's more vulnerable to
Yeah.
me. To me,
Yeah.
the way he's really
Oh yeah, it's just opening up
he's
like this
he
is
exactly he's using these lyrics, King of Pain. It sounds like he's
hmm
suffered. I mean, I don't know. That's another level of awareness.
yeah.
You have to think about all these things. It's not just about the parts and things. It really is about delivery, and
Well,
it is just so good.
I think about the lyrics, and I'm amused because if I'm correct, he was having a pity party when he wrote this. He was outside with his what's his wife's name?
Trudy.
Trudy. He's outside
Yeah.
with Trudy, and there he saw sunspots. I don't know how he saw sunspots. Maybe he heard about sunspots, but he said there's sunspots active on the sun today. That's my soul up there. And Trudy supposedly said, "Oh, that's you being having your little pity party again, my king of pain."
And he's like
And
ding 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 ding.
and he
I've
went,
never heard
"Where's my
that
pen?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's great.
supposedly she was
Where's my pen?
making fun of him, and she came up with that.
Nice.
But yeah, the lyrics seem very heartfelt, whether he was having a pity party
Right.
or not. But yeah, great lyrics. To express
Well,
that
it
emotion.
tapped into everyone's experienced pain for
Yeah, of
and
course.
that's a song that makes you again you can feel a little bit better about your pain or your bad situation.
Yeah.
It is my favorite track on the record. It's my favorite.
Yeah, loneliness and being aware of the hurt in the world. Everybody feels that at one time. You're more aware, I think, when
Mhm.
you're feeling wounded.
You're more open to
Yeah,
to
you're
feel
more
it,
open
yeah.
to that. So, um, he's singing about the injustice in the world and the loneliness and hurt he's feeling. So the words are really, they're not complex, but they're really well thought out.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah, that's what I
that's
mean.
a
They're
great
so
song.
simple, yet they have so much meaning and depth. That's a true writer right there.
Yeah.
Not you don't have to have a novel's worth of words to get across something so profound and so deep.
Oh, I feel called out.
No, no, it's not personal.
I do edit. Oh my goodness. Okay. What song is next? Do we know?
Wrapped around your
After
finger.
Oh yeah, wrapped around.
and this
Forgot
is
about
the
that one.
anecdote, the Martha anecdote I have.
Oh, here we go.
Can I start with that? Can I start with the anecdote?
Come close, kids.
I believe I tried to confirm this through Google earlier, but I know it's in my memory.
I've been Googled.
So not you. The song was released. The video was released in the UK earlier than it was in America. The video did not come out until January of '84, and I will almost die on the hill that I was at your house, another New Year's Eve, where Michael punks out early, and me and his mom are sitting in the recliners, slow drinking shots of whiskey.
Why'd you let me drink so much?
And the video premiered on MTV. I don't remember what time it was when they premiered it, but that's when it premiered. And I remember watching it for the first time and drinking with your mom. And again, you were sussed. And
This was New Year's of '83.
as far as my memory goes, yeah, that's when it premiered. But of '84, no, going into '84.
On New Year's Day.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I just want to say this is a different episode, but Billy Idol played the MTV New Year's Eve
Yeah.
show they did that year. That was the Rebel Yell tour.
Yeah.
So I know that was on New Year's Eve of '80.
Yeah.
Into '84.
Yeah, I don't know if they premiered it afterward or if it came on at 1 o'clock or 2 a.m. or something like that, but I know it was on. That's the first time I saw it. And that's when I did look it up. And that's when the video premiered, was in January of '84.
Yeah. I don't remember Billy Idol. I was passed out.
Yeah. Me and your mom were up dancing.
I remember.
Was it Moosehead that night?
Yes.
We drank a lot of Moosehead.
Michael and his Canadian
Thank
beers.
you, Canada, for
Canada
supplying the Moosehead.
I didn't even drink alcohol at the
Good
time.
times.
Did
Well,
not even
we
drink.
enough to drink, but we did. Shh.
Let's not go there.
But anyway, now we can discuss the wonderful
Okay.
song again without a lot of instrumentation.
Wrapped Around Your Finger by the Police.
I
Synchronicity,
love it.
1983. What a great song. I know we've said that already.
Is it kind of
each one
the
we go to,
opposite
it's
of
like-
every breath you take?
Um,
In a
Wrapped
sense,
Around Your Finger, kind of. I mean, I could see that. Wrapped Around Your Finger, the lyrics are really standing up to authority, turning the tables on authority, taking your power back. You've got me wrapped around your finger, and by the end of the song, you'll be wrapped around my finger. I'll have control. Great melody, great lyrics.
Yes.
He's always
that
the lyrics always paint a picture.
Yeah.
Sing's very good at that, and I really appreciate that when you paint a picture, not necessarily a linear story, but painting a picture with the words and music is very attractive to me. So, I really appreciate that. But Stuart Copeland's drumming is very well thought out, very planned, and a perfect complement to everything that's going on. And it comes in, pulls out, pulls back, and just a great song there.
Blamey.
Now, I mentioned this on our favorite drummer episode about this being the track that really cemented for me the brilliance of Stuart Copeland. I don't remember you guys really commenting too much on.
We're saving it for this episode.
You were right.
Okay. Well, I'm not even looking for affirmation, but it is funny to me that even though King of Pain is my favorite track, I have to credit Wrapped Around Your Finger as being the song that really made me understand that this was a really special album, a collection of songs. I wasn't really thinking in terms I can specifically remember listening to this in March of 84, driving on a Sunday, hearing this on the radio, which I'm not a radio guy, but I was then. I guess that day I was, and I just got it. I just remembered listening to this and I just couldn't turn it off.
Yeah.
It wasn't something I was listening to at that time, but it totally made sense to me. And I think I listened to it because maybe I don't know. I listened to it because I had to. I don't think something wasn't working in my car. Maybe that's why I'd listened to it.
I only get one radio station.
I don't remember exactly. I must have. I don't know. That was my first vehicle. So maybe I did not have maybe I only had radio in the car at the time. Maybe that's a fact that I have forgotten. But anyway, I remember listening to the song and going, this is wonderful. And truly his drumming, like we just said that it's so well thought out and it's with a lot of restraint and it just really serves the song.
Yeah.
Nothing
But
stands out.
It's a color, it's a flavor on the song. It's not, I really feel like you can listen to this song and say Andy Summers,
Right.
like so many other Police songs, he's the timekeeper in this
Right.
song. He's keeping time for the band, where
there
Stewart
are
just puts
a ton of
a
drums,
new flavor on the song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
yeah, that's one of the great things about the Police is
a
how
theme on this second side too. Is
Yeah.
there's a lot of open and the drums aren't coming in
there is
until
a
later
lot
on.
of space. But that's the great thing about the Police is they turn the roles around.
Yeah.
Stewart's doing the solos and Andy's keeping time.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun, and it makes the songs fresh. Over
Kind of
and
the
over
opposite
again.
of what the 80s were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, the way the production is on this, even though there are 80 isms, it is so well done that nothing is distracting when you listen to it. To me, I can be a discriminating listener, and some of the things that I enjoyed as a young man, I can listen to. Ooh, that's rough. This just sounds phenomenal.
Listening back to some stuff like, wow, really?
Yeah.
I used to love this song. Okay.
I think this is just a masterful production.
Oh, yeah.
Benjamin,
Yeah.
the boys. I love it.
The restraint.
Some of those 80s songs you listen to and you go, that's an 80s ism. That stands out right there. That's 1984, obviously. So yeah, Yeah, tremendous production on that. Tea in the Sahara?
That's it.
Is that the next song?
That is.
That's correct.
I'm starting to question my
It was
notes.
the last song on the album.
It's the last song
On the LP.
LP.
On the LP.
Jamie caught me earlier.
Yeah.
I got it written
When
down
I-
in case no one wrote it down.
I love the bass
Okay.
sound on this song in particular on the record.
Yeah,
I just love the bass sound.
yeah.
I love
It's got a
yes.
great groove.
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
very good at coming up with a hooky.
Well,
bass
all
line.
the atmospheric stuff.
Yeah.
Whether it's a Fairlight or Andy or a Synclavier and Stewart on his little percussive feisty cymbals, it just works so well. And if you've never read the book, The Sheltering Sky, that's how the book feels. I mean, that feeling comes through, that desolate, empty, open expanse, and this could be trouble. We think it's cool, but now we're in trouble or whatever. It's got a little ominous tone to it as well,
I don't want to get too nerdy. I just want to backtrack a little bit. We haven't mentioned for anybody who knows, we haven't mentioned that Andy Summers actually used Roland synths on this record. He was he was a Roland guy during that period, so it was Roland for him. So just side note.
But Tea in the Sahara is based on a chapter in that book. Am I right? Okay. The story of three sisters who met a prince, invited him to tea. They had tea in the desert, and he said, "This is lovely. I'll be back to do this again." And they waited and waited ages for him to return. Kind of a bittersweet situation, a romantic idea of waiting for your prince to return. But I really love the subtlety of the song, of the music behind the song. Nothing too glaring. It's just a good mood.
It's almost like soundtrack music,
Yeah, I could see that.
It's so subtle. It's not like here's a pop song music, or here's a regular song. It just drives that mood.
There's a lot in reserve that pushes the song forward, and it really doesn't have to push. There's a good flow to it.
I would argue that this is the most sophisticated song on the record.
Yeah.
Even more so than the next one that is the CD bonus track. I think this is maybe not musically the most sophisticated, but it is the most sophisticated in total, in arrangement and in just in total. I think it's the final statement on the record, and it's really sophisticated.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, got all the elements. Without, like I said, being a traditional bass, drums, and guitar song.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those tracks that is not an obvious one if you're not a musician, but it's really good and worth the time.
Well, there's only drums in the chorus, right? Very minimal,
Oh, it's a very sparse song, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I just meant drum wise, there's little percussive elements in that little echoed. I don't know if it's a oboe or a clarinet that it kind of repeats a little sound. It's just such a vibe.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah. Now, kids, if you bought the CD version, the last song on the album would be "Murder by Numbers."
1, 2, 3.
That song sounds so much like a Sting song.
Yeah.
It's like, here's what my next album is.
Traditional Police song.
Here's what my solo album is going to sound like.
Andy Summers wrote the music for this.
Yeah. Oh. And it's for me, I don't know, maybe I'm again on my own on this, but when it starts out, I've heard it so many times. It starts out, the drums aren't really there, and when the drums come in,
Andy just places that beat. It's 4/4, and you think, what's going? This is not right.
Because you don't realize it's a swing feel, because it's not there. So
I remember learning that, going, wait a minute, something's happening here. Wait a minute, okay, I'm counting.
The meter's very deceptive, but it's a swing beat. It sounds so much like Sting. Not an obvious Police tune, but still a great. It's very different from any other song on the album, though. it has a sparsity to it. There's
Yeah, I think that's why they only made it a bonus track, because I
Yeah.
don't know if it would have fit in anywhere.
yeah,
So this,
but I do think it's a great
Mother.
closer for it.
this should have
Hmm.
been in place of Mother.
Yeah, I was going to say that too, but it would have
Yeah.
fit in there better. But
Yeah, it would've-
yeah,
Yeah.
they
Hmm.
had to. Andy had to have his way. His
Yeah, it's
no,
so
but-
funny.
way.
He could have had his album credit on here anyway, since he wrote
Yeah.
the music,
Yeah,
and they wouldn't have had to put Mother on there. But I think it was just, I need to poke you in the chest and say I need it on the
Yeah.
record.
Yeah, I
don't
think
know.
that was their deal. They each got one song per album to do whatever they wanted to do.
yeah. I don't think this would have replaced Mother in the order, but yeah, I really like it as a closing track to the album.
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
it's-
because it comes back from the otherworldliness feel of Tears
Yeah.
of Hera and comes back to the three instruments and ends it.
well, it's so different from the other
Yeah,
songs.
yeah.
It brings you back, well, not maybe back to the beginning of the album, but it brings you back to a different space.
Yeah.
To recognize the band as a whole. So yeah, I really like that song.
My guess is they actually did record this last. This was
Mhm.
one of the very last things they did for the record, because the energy is so different.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is way different, and the production is different. It's not quite as fine tuned as the rest of the
Mhm.
record. It's
I'm just wondering if I've never
just-
read this anywhere or never seen anybody say this, but I'm wondering if they were thinking about, oh, well, this is the beginning of our next album, but we're going to work on this later because we got all this to do and it doesn't really fit, and we got tours. And then, of course, they were like, we're probably going to break up after this, so just throw it on there as a bonus track. I mean,
don't
Sting knew he was going to be. Sting knew, and I think he probably wanted to put the song on, have it on official police documents, so to speak,
Well,
instead of.
I think that a lot of people could talk about the music. They had stated everything that they needed to say,
Mhm.
but I think
Yeah.
it was more about the human factor. This record, we can say, is one of the best records of the 80s, easily.
Mhm.
It's definitely one of the most successful records, and I think this record is truly a great record. After 42 years, it's stood up the test of time.
Mhm.
The band, I would say that Sting just didn't want to fight with Stewart anymore.
Yeah.
He didn't need to have the conflict. He knew that he could write these songs, and he could do his own. He could do
We've
his
already
own.
done it all. We've already conquered the world. There's
Mhm.
nothing else to do with this band.
I think that the best part about this is that they truly went out on the highest note possible.
Yeah.
This is their best record for me. It's the best record they ever did.
It's the
I
most
don't know how many
sophisticated
bands.
for
I
sure.
don't know how many bands can say that.
Yeah.
To go out on the highest note. They're one of the only bands to have done that.
Mm-hmm.
They literally lasted 8 years. No, 6 years. 6 years. 78 to 84 and achieved all that and conquered the world. And they did everything that they needed to do within that 6 years. It's almost like the Beatles in terms of length of time.
Yeah, the
And-
only other thing it wasn't a studio album. They did remixes in '86 and went in and twisted some knobs here and there, and maybe added a couple parts here and there, but that wasn't a Police album. It was just the hits
And it
remix,
wasn't,
you know?
and
Yeah.
that was not even good in my opinion.
Yeah.
It was unnecessary. And you could tell that
I think it was to fulfill a contractual obligation, probably.
probably Stewart didn't even play drums on the
Yeah.
remix. They had to
Yeah,
program it.
Lindrum, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like ugh. I don't remember liking it at the time. I thought it was unnecessary.
Yeah, I thought it was quirky. I was like, that's not I'd rather hear the original, you know?
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a fantastic record. Totally worthy of our discussion. And any final thoughts from you guys? I thought this was some great songs that we talked about, and I really enjoyed this. Any final thoughts from you guys?
Just
Well,
brilliant all around.
As a career, the Police started out on a high note and just crescendoed to the top. Like you said,
They
in
did
6
not
years,
do this.
It's
Like
every
a lot
album.
of bands do, you know?
I've just we've discussed Miles Davis and
Steps.
how the best album he's ever done is the one I just listened to. The Police are kind of the same way. If you ask my favorite album, it's
What's your
hard.
favorite album?
Well, it's hard to pick one.
Oh,
whether
okay.
it's Regatta de Blanc or Ghost in the Machine. Synchronicity
I
is
love Regatta de Blanc.
an amazing album. Every one of their
I love
albums
Ghost in the Machine. It's so
are
different.
so solid on their own.
Right.
It's hard
so,
to choose. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I've come around to your point of view.
Quite the conundrum
You've
we've
done it,
created
Michael.
tonight.
You've done it.
Oh my goodness. We're getting out of hand here. But Synchronicity, the pinnacle, the zenith of their career, even if I
agree.
don't know the order of the songs, it's not on the outside of the cover. That's the only fault of this album. The track listing is not on the outside. I'm going to pull the sleeve out and everything. It's crazy. Anyways.
Show the kids the sleeve.
Oh, yeah, they've seen this.
No, the inside sleeve.
Oh, the inside sleeve? Dun, 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 dun. Ooh. Heartthrobs.
3 bottle blanc.
Nice.
I echoed Sting's glasses, by the way, for this episode with the round gold glasses.
But yeah,
All right.
it's perfect pop art right there. One of the best albums ever.
Yeah. And it really is a great cover.
Yeah.
But, all right, boys and girls, this was fun. Thanks everybody for joining us. We will see you guys soon. Thanks so much for liking and subscribing. If you have any comments, please add those. We will try to get back with you and respond. Thanks so much, everybody.
Right.
We'll have some tea in the Sahara waiting for you.
Yeah, you might wait that long. Yeah.